Welcome to Unmasking, a podcast for those ready to lead, love, and live with more clarity, freedom, and truth. We all wear masks, and they have helped us all to fit in, stay safe, get ahead. But over time, those same masks start to weigh us down. They disconnect us from our joy, our energy, and our true self. This show is an invitation to explore 15 of those masks that we wear to be accepted, admired, or in control, and then to get really curious about what they're really costing us. I'm your host, Ann Barbour, and in each episode, we'll look at one mask and explore what it protects, what it hides, and what's possible without it. I invite you to join me in Unmasking. We'll laugh, we'll probably cringe, but we'll be real. All right. Welcome, everybody. We're super excited to kick off. This is our first episode about talking about masks.
Yes.
And Scott, I'm super psyched to talk to you about this because we've been having some side discussions about all the ways we show up and ways that it serves us, to a point, and then ways that it doesn't. But before we dive in, I think what you're doing at the YouSchool and helping kids is amazing. And as we're helping our kids develop their identity, before we jump into how as adults we've adapted, I thought it'd be fun for you to share what was going on at the YouSchool.
Yeah. So the YouSchool is a response to what I wish I had growing up. In a nutshell, the YouSchool is a business that tries to support teenagers in figuring out life and how they fit in life. Specifically, it's curriculum. That's how we started. And working in public schools and other organizations like the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club and faith-based organizations like churches, we wanted to provide a curriculum where kids would think out loud and think to themselves their responses to life's biggest questions, which I think, unfortunately, is something that most people don't do until later in life. And I used to say that what I'm trying to do is put the midlife crisis out of business. But again, it is a response to what I wish I had. I picked a character for myself when I was about 13. And when I declared that that's who I was and who I was going to be, the people in my life congratulated me. And I think it's because the character I picked was responsible, a good citizen. It sounded a lot like what I'd come from and what I'd seen in my parents and my community. So it's almost like there was a mask and it was put down and then I picked it up and everyone said, "Oh, good job." And I just happened to do it probably younger than most kids do. Most kids, even when I was in high school or as a teenager, would say, "Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to go do with my life. I don't know who I'm going to go be." And the idea was, that's totally fine. That totally makes sense. That's what college is for. And then if you're in college and you're still saying that, and it's close to time to graduate, the people will actually put more pressure on you at that point. But then they'll say, that's okay. It's still okay. Like, no one really figures it out at 21, 22. And instead of going to college this time, they'll say, just go get a good job. Just go put your head down in your career. And then people really kind of stop asking. You really kind of stop asking. And then you're on a track for, at least in my culture, my world, the track is go get married, go have kids, buy a house, and shut up. And then hold on as long as you can. And maybe then if you get to the place of retirement and financial independence, then you can explore broader things. But the mask is there. The formula and the track has been laid out. So just go and do that. And the problem is that just doesn't work for most people. I don't really think it works for anybody, but it certainly didn't work for me. So me and a couple of partners started the YouSchool about a dozen years ago. And it's been quite an adventure in terms of the types of people we work with, from kids, but also it includes a lot of the adults that work with kids. And the joke is always, man, I need this. Before I help kids do this, I need this. And then that has turned into working with adults. And specifically, we work with veterans as they transition out of the military to civilian life. And we use the same curriculum with them that we use with teenagers. So anyways, that's a long-winded kind of response, but it is certainly aligned to what we're talking about here with masks.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I was thinking it always seems like someone was giving you an answer, which was kick it down the road. And
Yeah.
as I was, as we were thinking about masks and talking about masks, and I was thinking about what you're trying to do at the YouSchool is really help the kids do the inner reflection, the inner work to decide that they have some agency and control over that. And I think, I know I can speak for myself. I too wish I had had some type of like, just something, some tool, some adult in my life who was like,
Hmm.
he was like, you don't just have to listen to the outside world. You could kind of tap into something deeper. And so that's
Hmm.
why I think it's fun to talk. We'll be excited to talk to you about masks because
Yeah.
it's our favorite subject. So it's
Yeah.
all good. What I guess we chatted a little bit and I think we landed on talking about there's so many different masks that we
Yes.
can wear.
And I wear them all. I have worn
We
them
got
all.
to wear them all. We actually laugh. I was like, I wear them all at all times. But
Yeah.
the busy mask seems like, especially as technology has come into the world and how
Hmm.
we can control and protect our time and frankly our identity in the whole thing. And so maybe tell me when the busy mask showed up for you in your life for the first time.
Yeah. I think growing up, what I heard was be busier. That's what good people do. And I had kind of two voices from that. One was my dad, who worked, I would say, nonstop. It seemed like that. And that may be what my kids say about me as well. But he was often out of the house. This is pre, work from home. He was out of the house. He was at an office. He was wearing a suit, driving a nice car, maybe before I was even up and getting ready for school. And then he was home sometimes, late for dinner. And if he was home or if he wasn't home, he was traveling for work. So that was kind of one voice, and it's very reinforced. That's what good people do. And then on the other side, a mom who's a stay-at-home mom, but very busy as a stay-at-home mom, whether it was supporting the PTA, hanging out with friends. It just seemed like she was always like sewing clothes, making food, like and I think I heard more the kind of verbal processing from her than my dad, and that was almost a consistent refrain from her of "I'm so lazy today, I haven't done enough today." And
Mm.
so just those two mirrors, those two voices were really strong. And I think what I felt growing up is lazy. And in hindsight, now that I am a dad, now that I have teenagers, there's a fine line between being lazy and being tired, or being lazy and unmotivated. And I wish I could have maybe thought about that some more early on. So for me, it was starting work. And I started work at 16. I had a bunch of jobs in finance, accounting, internships, and I really learned to turn it on and just crush things because it felt so good when people that I worked for would say, "Wow, you work really hard." So that was reinforced, everywhere that I went, and also obviously the collective culture, like good people, Protestant work ethic, Puritan work ethic. The good people are the ones who just work all the time.
Mm. And is there a point? Oh gosh, it's so relatable, and it's probably just because the apparently generational that it's similar because I too have felt like time and productivity and being of service, useful.
Yeah.
Those phrases were like if you weren't doing that, then you were selfish or you were
Yes.
all kinds of self judgments, and then that helped feed like my inner critic when I did have quiet moments or I
Mm.
did just need a nap or needed to sleep and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you and I both know that it's great there's some great aspects of being busy and getting things done in the
Yeah.
world, and it feels good. Did anything in particular happen in your life? Like, was there a crossroads where you were like, busy is good, but it's not serving me really?
I think the first voice that was contrary to that was probably my wife, because we got married young. We just turned 23, just about a year after graduating from college. Didn't feel weird at the time, but my son's almost 19. That seems wild that he got married at that age. But she came from a family that didn't have that message loud and clear in terms of be busy all the time. She has a family that actually really values rest. And the struggle, I think, started early, like our honeymoon, where I'm like, what are we doing today? Where are we going? What are we doing? And she was like, what are you talking about? And this is what we're doing. and our joke now is so much of our honeymoon in Hawaii was her laying down, reading a book, relaxing at the beach, and I'm standing over, like looking around for like someone to play with or something to do. Like, are we gonna go snorkeling? What are we? And then I would like sneak into hotels to go work out. I brought books for work. I mean, so that was part of it. And then I think the next was having a kid, which we did a couple years later. And it was, I mean, the profound, I think, question popped up of what am I going to instill in him and my kids, especially as I'm so prone to being busy and working, and how will I communicate their value and their priority? And so it was a very slow, like Velcro ripping for me over time, especially as I had another kid and then another. And I started to like really try to understand, where does that message come from? Where do those voices in my head come from? That if I am relaxing, those voices of you're not good enough, you'll never have what it takes, you're behind, like it was so loud, those voices. I'm like, what is happening to me? Because I now know rationally that those voices are not true, and I know that I need rest in order to produce more, actually. And I would see other people that were just getting burnt out. I'm like, oh, that's wild. So anyways, it's my wife, my kids, those are the primary ones who were like, yo dude, what are you doing?
Interesting. And when you say it was like a slow Velcro unwinding, I'm assuming, well, I'm going to make an assumption, like me, like I understand the concept. Like when someone says to me something like, you really should slow down. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Right. Like it'd be good for me.
Yeah.
But there is a behind the scenes slower version of me actually taking action into creating that change. And I guess, so it wasn't like a switch went on where you were like, yeah, I'm super busy and it's not working for me. Is there,
No.
I guess, is there something you could share that like you wish someone had said something to you earlier? Like, I mean, clearly your wife said something, your kid's presence was a sign.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, in hindsight, like no one could have forced me to not go through what I went through, but would there have been something to make it like, oh yeah, there's another way. And there's actually, you know, a way that feels more balanced and more that, or you get to choose how busy you are, really.
Yeah. I think what's helped, the message I've heard more recently, recent years, has been two things. One, to actually allow myself to listen to that voice and feel it. It's really, to me, it's a voice of shame. It's being caught. I'm afraid of being caught for not working hard enough, as though there's this committee watching. I used to really think that any minute, if I'm resting, someone that I work with or work for or am responsible to will call and be like, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? And I would kind of make sure if I'm not busy, I at least look like I am. So on one side, it was, actually feel those things, feel what that feels like, and allow those voices to come just to be able to examine them. And then the other side of it was going down the path of understanding more about my strengths. Like Gallup Strengths Finder has been a real helpful tool to see how I'm wired and to not fight it so hard. So I feel way healthier now, even though I haven't changed much, but the internal state has changed. So I will make a to-do list for my weekends. I will make a to-do list for vacations, but that includes things that are life-giving to me. It actually feels really good to be able to do 30 to 45 minutes of work in the morning of a vacation day, because then I now know that it will enable me to be at peace the rest of the day and be present. I used to try to fight that, hide that, and then all day long I'd just be like, I'm anxious. I'm hearing those voices so loud. So now I just kind of more roll with it, and the pressure has gone down considerably. So I now never really feel guilty if I do feel like I'm late or behind. I will often just kind of zoom out on my calendar and write down all my different priorities and tasks and things I'm responsible for, and be like, no, I'm good. And then I've also had such experience now, I can get caught up very quickly. So even that idea of being behind or late, I've demystified that hundreds of times. So I've learned to trust myself. In other words, trust how I'm wired, trust I'll get it done, and trust that this moment is here for a reason, to take a break, to put the phone down, to close the laptop, and not even try to sneak in work where no one even knows what I'm doing. Like I used to, I, I really don't think I took a day of vacation for probably till I was probably 32, 35, something like that. Like even on vacations, I would bring books that I knew no one else knew, that was books for work. And it would just look like I'm relaxing at the pool. I was not. I was taking notes. I was downloading content that I could use for later. I was writing in the margins, strategy, ideas, to-do lists. And so even when it looked like I was relaxing, I was not. So, that's a long-winded answer, but
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I think people think of it in terms of like being busy or sometimes being asleep, right? Like people, there's a polarity with how people view it. And I think you just pointed to like a beautiful way of like knowing yourself well enough to know that you need that 30, 45 minutes. And you're not trying to like stamp out a piece of yourself so that you can say that you're relaxed, but you actually get to where you want to go by
yeah,
integrating a version to that. I think that's super important because like I know that for me, I talk to people about like what's it like to be in silence for you, and like a meditation
yeah,
practice, and they're like, I can't do it. And I was
uh-huh,
like, well, why? And they're like, I just can't sit still with my thoughts. And I was like, okay, like, and can you go for a walk?
mm-hmm.
Can you combine something where you are actually, getting towards where you want to go, but maybe
That's
just
great.
without your phone or something like that. But I love that you point out that you didn't actually totally give up your busyness.
Yeah,
You just modified it in a way that like it wasn't interrupting your day. In fact, it cleared your day in a way that allowed you to be present. And I think
yeah,
that's a gift because I think most people think it's one or the other.
right. Well, that's what you said about the walk too is definitely significant for me as well, to do something that is productive, um, or enjoyable, and it gets me to that clear-headed space. So walking is a big deal for me. I walk a lot. I don't even tell people how much I walk. It's a joke in my family how much I walk, and other people would think I'm insane. Every day I walk. I also play a lot of golf, and I shouldn't say that. I'm not on the golf course. I go and putt a lot, and I go to the
Mm.
driving range, and that's those two things are the places I go to that are empty in space, so I can get clear about my thoughts. And the third one is I've coached youth sports for 15 years, and that's really the only place I go where it's yeah, I'm busy, but it's a different. It's either sit on the sideline as a parent or in the car, or be on the field and playing with the kids. And I think coaching youth sports is really the only time I get to escape the inner voice of critique. Yeah, for me, I got to be fully present. I can't think about an email, a client, a project for the hour and a half that I'm with these kids. It's all in. It's usually in the car ride home where I'm like, oh God, I
Yeah.
got so much to do. So those have become these disciplines to fight against the negative part of the busy mask.
Interesting. And so what I hear you saying is like when you're serving something else, like I know you talked servant leadership at one point with
Yeah.
Kurt about like getting outside of yourself. And so you're redirecting it in a way that it takes you out of your inner critic
Yeah.
and your kind of taskmaster and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Do you ever get totally silent? Like, can you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for some strange reason, starting around the age of 20, the people I truly admired were ones who did that: meditation, contemplative prayer. And so for me to try to become like them, and I spent a lot of time doing that. And I guess one, I've been drawn to it, but two, I guess I've developed that as a normal part of life, to be real silent and still and listen and sometimes do nothing. So um, I think I'm just fortunate that I was drawn to those kinds of people, depth of soul and character, and I knew that that was the key to get there. So I was a real weird, like 22-year-old kid going to spend time in a forest by myself for 3 hours.
Right. So your business, but also include like a searching a curiosity and stuff that led you to having some great things to rely on as you got older. Because I know a lot of people I know, like I would never have known that aspect of you,
Hmm.
but you present yourself as kind of a calm, like easygoing, chill in all of our engagements.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
think about you, well, it reminds me of my mom's friend. She was like, "And I'm always calm on the surface, but I'm just paddling like a duck paddling
Mm,
like hell underneath."
yeah.
And I thought, "Oh, that sounds tiring." At the time, I thought, "Oh, that sounds tiring." But she was more about the exterior presentation of calm and then
Uh-huh.
running hard. But you kind of run hard with a presentation of calm, and I just find that super fascinating. So, I mean, just and cool, right? Like
Yeah.
because people's nervous systems, like as we kind of pick up on how other people are,
Yeah.
like a sense of that you can be busy and be have a calm clarity of vision
Yeah.
instead of it being kind of frantic, which I pick up from like going to the grocery store stresses me out because
Yeah.
people are busy and you got to be careful. Your
Yes.
heels, your car, in the car, all the other things, and like that busyness factor seems to be a badge of pride for many.
Yeah.
And I know for me personally that that's how it ended up with some health issues
Mm.
because I wasn't listening to the body and the body was screaming at me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, I mean, life is like, well, we're going to catch up with you if you don't slow down a little
Absolutely.
bit.
That's happened to me many times. And my wife has helped me pay attention to that. She's like, your body is trying to get your attention for your
Yes.
soul. It's like it's never wrong. And if you ask me, I'm like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
really? What's a mysterious pain you have? Stomach issues, insomnia.
Mhm.
Like those are, now I know those are obvious cues, signals.
Right. Right. And what is your go-to signal of that your body is you're busier than your body wants you to be?
Yeah. So it was for a long time, like pain or insomnia. Now it's short temperedness around my family. Um, it's like an immediate, like, whoa. So the cup is overflowing. There's no more. So I'm just at max. I'm at capacity. Um, and that has become the first sign. Like I got to do something. I got to shift something. And I've also, I think having, so I have some kids that are like, can be really needy. I think that's true for anybody who has kids. They're all needy. But for some reason, the biggest difference about my career compared to my dad's career, it's not necessarily the hours, it's more like the context. So my dad would really go away. Like even though he was maybe only 20 minutes away, it might as well have been another world. But I've always been accessible. And so I'm almost always like shifting things, canceling things, moving things around so that I can be at school pickup or get to a dentist appointment that's not going well, or orthodontist or something. And so I guess I've learned by default, like in the rearview mirror, you know what? Anything's cancelable. Is essentially, for better or for worse, anything can be moved. There's really hardly anything that I can't move. And I don't think that was true for my dad. It was like, he's gone. And we won't even talk to him until he's home. So I think that's helped me learn, like, in a similar way, if I respond with real irritation and meanness or short tempered, I just now look around like, okay, I need to change. I need to move some stuff around in my schedule right now or tomorrow. So, and do something different. This ain't working. And then usually I see that the choices I've made for my schedule were out of that busy mask. They weren't out of like a place of surrender or prioritization. And so again, I can just look back, I can look down the calendar and think, well, yeah, obviously that does not need to happen tomorrow or right now. That can happen never or next week or next month. And even if people don't get it, it also doesn't really matter.
Right. Right.
Just cancel it.
Cancel it. I like that. It is all movable as long as we have, like what is the real priority in like health, family, and I think it's interesting that it shifts, that your signals shift when you're like when you're not, when you're over, when your cup's full, and paying attention to that because like all of a sudden you could be like, this is not who I am, and then yet you're like acting that way, and your family's God bless them, they're the first to tell you, like I mean, this is the great thing
Yeah.
about um, long-term relationships and children both. I think that they both kind of keep us well, honest for lack of a better
Yeah.
word.
Yes. Humble.
um, so anything for the, in terms of masks, like, and all you've studied, maybe even helping, like, make a comment about helping our kids um, worry about the inside. Like, what would you say on busy? Because busy is so culturally in
Uh-huh.
society, and even family, as you mentioned, families value busy. And so I
Yeah.
feel like it's an important, like, yes, it's of service until it's not. And everyone's got a different pain point for that, as we've discussed.
Yeah.
What do you think would be useful for sharing?
There's such a fine line. I think it's a mysterious fine line, and it's different for everybody for why you're busy. And I now think I'm busier than ever, but I rarely am busy because I feel like I have to be or should be. I'm drawn to the things that I do now, and the things that I'm not. Typically, similar to the way I've learned how to cancel meetings, I've learned how to get out of things. Like I, because there's these little ingredients of why we do things, and only a few are really good. So what I'm really talking about is intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, and the extrinsic stuff that um, drove me for so many years was they want you to do this, or they will only be impressed with you if um, and once I've learned to kind of step out of that and trust the other side, like what if I just am busy with the things that I'm drawn to, I've found that it works better. And I have almost endless energy, not endless, but I have a lot. And that's one of the conversations now we try to have with teenagers is not just to say it like in an offhand way, like you should find stuff you're passionate about, because every young person's heard that message.
Yeah.
But to say that as the headline and then say there actually is a process to go through over time for you to clarify what that actually is. And similar to the way you're engaging me in this conversation, like we engage kids like that through targeted questions, time to think, conversation to reflect with them, and for them to talk with other people, and you just get a little bit closer the more you do the work of reflection, so that you can actually discover and distill down to like what is it that you're drawn to. And my hunch is there's some people that are wired with more capacity, more energy than others, but I think when someone finds intrinsic pursuits, things that they're drawn to, then they have, and research shows they can persist longer, meaning they can keep after it longer with more energy, with more focus, and maybe more importantly, it's more satisfying as they go about doing it. So, which is different than being busy for the sake of being busy or being busy for extrinsic reasons. It's really hard to persist. It feels awful, and it's not satisfying. It feels like a grind, and I don't want that for anybody. So we can figure that out. It is a solvable problem, but it's not necessarily obvious or instant. It takes some time.
Mm. And maybe one last question I have for you is regarding busyness and boredom, because I think that I've noticed our boys are all in their 20s, and there's different levels of ability to be bored, but there's always a phone in their
Mm-hmm.
hand. It's a struggle to, everything's important in the moment.
Yeah.
And I wonder what we would do with our time if we weren't busy
Uh-huh.
looking at our phones, right?
Yeah.
And do you talk about with the kids about that a lot? And I'm curious, I know people are looking for hope in that area, that
Uh-huh.
that kind of is running its cycle, and that maybe kids are even getting tired of it. But I loved your insight on busyness and not the ability no longer to be bored ever.
Well, it's interesting timing. Next Wednesday, I don't know when this is going to launch, but we at the YouSchool are launching an app for, ironically, to help teenagers understand themselves better and understand what they're doing online and what they're doing with their phones. And ultimately, what we want is to help them be intentional. And to be intentional the prerequisite for that is to know what you're intending, self-awareness. So the app is designed primarily as a self-awareness tool for kids. And the hook is, if you want more screen time, you got to do some of this self-reflection work. And the interesting thing is, doing the self-reflection work is research has proven that it's productive. It will help you get clearer about who you are and what you want, what your priorities are, and what your pursuits ought to be. So we want to disrupt that moment. Similar, I'm sure this is the way you talk about meditation. There's that moment before you respond, before you react. It's a real subtle, quick moment. We want to disrupt that moment as kids instinctively grab their phones. Because, I mean, even with a question that's prompted before you open Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok that asks the question, what happened to the thing you care about? Or why are you doing this right now? I mean, you can disregard that perhaps, but if it's in your own voice, which is what we intend to do with this app, we are already testing. We hope that will invite someone to pause and either be more intentional as they scroll, because there are amazing things to, understand in the internet. I am not anti-technology. I think of my son who's learned how to fix cars, surf, fix bikes. I mean, the extraordinary things he's used the internet for and his device for are all positive. So we want to help them sort through to find that stuff, and then also sort through away from the stuff that's destructive or at least distracting. And I actually don't think it's neutral. I think it's harmful to mindlessly scroll. And there's great research for that. So anyways, that's probably more than you.
Great. Thank you for having the tool. Cause I know there's a lot of, I was even with, our parents, like their phones are dinging and ringing. Like it's attention is really, at a meal, and it's even the people who used to set the rules are even like succumbing to it. So a tool that's neutral, that's not your mom or your dad or a grandparent, we probably can't have enough welcome attempts at trying to disrupt the cycles and the awareness and just, cause I think it's a much longer conversation, but it addresses the alone piece of how people are feeling alone and disconnected. But I think it starts with just as many different people doing amazing things like you guys are at YouSchool to disrupt the process. And thanks for making busyness not a good or bad thing, but something to work with in terms of energy that fills you up, in terms of making it work for you. Because I think people have this, they want to quickly label it as good or bad. And I think the framing and the way you shared how you work with it is really powerful and exciting, because again, everyone gets to choose their own adventure.
Yeah. Thanks, Ann.
Thanks so much, Scott.
Stopping. Most people don't realize they're wearing a mask, which hides their true power without even knowing it. But the people you work with, your friends, your family, and the world need you to step into the power of your authentic self. Take our free mask assessment to uncover which of the 15 masks you are unconsciously wearing that shapes your life and how you can start to break free. Start your journey at akeypartners.com and step into the power of your authentic self.